I'm too young to be with someone sick. I don't want to take care of you. My girlfriend left me right after I was diagnosed with cancer. Years later, she came back with a baby, begging for forgiveness after her lover abandoned her. My name is Lucas. I'm 26 years old, and until recently I thought I had my life completely under control. I had a stable job, a girlfriend I loved deeply, and plans to marry her in less than a year. But in a matter of months, everything fell apart. Sometimes I still find it hard to accept how quickly life can change. I still wake up with the feeling that it was all a nightmare, that I'll open my eyes and see Liliana by my side, smiling, asking me if I want coffee or if I'd rather sleep a little longer, but that moment never comes. Liliana and I met at university. We were both studying industrial engineering. I was always more reserved, while she had a brilliant personality, the kind that fills empty spaces without even trying. She caught my attention from the first day. It wasn't just her looks, but the way she spoke, how she explained things when someone didn't understand, or the genuine interest she showed when someone told her something. We became friends in the second semester during a group project. We would spend hours solving exercises, and little by little, the conversation started to go beyond the subject matter. She told me about her family, her dream of having her own company, and how much she loved to travel. At first, I thought she would never see me as more than a classmate, but over time something changed. One day, after a presentation, she invited me for coffee to celebrate. That afternoon, we talked for more than 5 hours. It was the first time I felt we truly connected. A couple of weeks later, we officially started dating. They were very beautiful years. We graduated together, got our first jobs, and although things weren't always easy, we always supported each other. When I started working at a metallurgical company, I spent many hours on my feet, moving material and supervising processes. It wasn't exactly an office job, but I liked it. It made me feel useful, productive. In my free time, I also dedicated myself to photography, something I had been passionate about since I was a teenager. Liliana was always my model, or at least she was for a long time. Sometimes we would go to the park on Sundays, and I would take pictures of her among the trees or at sunset. She told me she loved how I made her feel when I took her picture, that I looked at her like no one else did. After 6 years in a relationship, we decided to take the next step. We started looking for an apartment to live in together and began talking about getting married. We even looked at rings. I remember that was one of the happiest times of my life. I felt that everything was finally falling into place, but it was right then that everything started to change. One day, while shaving, I noticed I had a small lump on the right side of my neck. I thought it was a muscle thing or a swollen lymph node from a minor infection. I didn't pay much attention to it, but the days passed and it didn't disappear. It even seemed to grow a little. I told Liliana, and she said I should go to the doctor, but we didn't give it much importance. We were both so focused on work and the preparations for our new life together that health took a back seat. A couple of weeks later, I started feeling extreme fatigue. It was hard for me to get up in the mornings, and even though I slept a lot, I never felt rested. I also started sweating at night, something that had never happened to me before. I went to a general practitioner, and he told me it was probably swollen lymph nodes due to an infection. He prescribed antibiotics and anti-inflammatory drugs. He assured me that in a few days everything would be back to normal, but it wasn't. The weeks passed, then months, and not only did the lymph nodes not disappear, but they started to grow more. One of them was already visible to the naked eye. That's when I decided to get more comprehensive tests. I remember the day of the biopsy perfectly. Liliana accompanied me, and although she tried to seem calm, I could see the nervousness in her eyes. She squeezed my hand and said, "Everything's going to be okay, Lucas. You'll see it's nothing serious." I wanted to believe her. When the results came back, the doctor asked me to sit down. His face completely changed from the relaxed expression he had in previous consultations. He explained that I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. I didn't immediately understand what that meant. I looked at him, waiting for him to continue, and when he did, he used a word that shot through my body like an electric current: cancer. I remember my mind went blank. I didn't hear everything he said after that. I just saw his lips moving and him pointing at the images from my tests, while a single question formed in my head. Why me? Liliana remained silent. When we left the office, she walked a few steps behind me. In the parking lot, she came closer, hugged me, and started to cry. I didn't know what to say to her. I just told her everything was going to be okay, even though I didn't believe it myself. The first few days after the diagnosis were confusing. I had trouble sleeping. I would wake up in the middle of the night and walk around the apartment aimlessly, trying to convince myself that this wasn't real. Sometimes I would go to bed thinking that the next day everything would be back to normal, that the doctor had made a mistake, that it had all been a lab error. But no. Every time I woke up, reality was there, relentless. Fortunately, a few years earlier I had taken out a major medical insurance policy on my father's recommendation. At the time, I did it without much thought, more as a preventive measure. I never imagined I would end up depending on it. Thanks to that insurance, I was able to start treatment immediately. The chemotherapy sessions were tough, but at first, Liliana was with me every step of the way. She went to the sessions, helped me eat, and cheered me up when she saw I was weak. She told me we were going to get through this together, that she would be by my side no matter what. However, as the months went by, her attitude changed. She started to become more distant, colder. Sometimes she would complain that we didn't do anything like we used to, that my mood had changed, or that my illness was consuming her too. I tried to understand her. I knew this was difficult not only for me, but for her as well. Watching the person you love deteriorate day by day is not an easy thing to endure. But there was something different in her eyes, a kind of emotional exhaustion that went beyond concern. She started going out more with her friends. She said she needed to distract herself, to clear her mind. I understood. I didn't want her life to revolve solely around my illness. But over time, those outings became more frequent, and the affectionate messages less so. Sometimes she would go whole nights without replying, and when she did, she sounded annoyed or distant. There was one day I will never forget. It was my third chemotherapy session. I was exhausted, nauseous, and all I wanted was to get home, take a shower, and sleep. She didn't go that time. She told me she had a lot of work and couldn't be absent. I accepted it without complaint. When I got to the apartment, I was alone. I sat on the bed, took my camera, and started looking through old photos. There were hundreds of us smiling, traveling, hugging. I stared at one in particular from a trip we took to the beach the year before. She was there with her hair down, laughing in front of the sea. At that moment, I realized how much I missed her, even when we were together. The following weeks were worse. Liliana seemed increasingly absent. She spoke to me curtly, as if every conversation was an obligation. When I tried to tell her that her attitude hurt me, she would reply coldly, "You don't understand how hard this is for me too." I would remain silent. I didn't want to argue. I didn't have the strength for it. Until one night, after a silent dinner, she put her cutlery on the table, took a deep breath, and said something that broke my soul. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm too young to be with someone sick. I don't want to watch you die. And if you live, I don't want to be a burden to you." I didn't know what to reply. I just stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. She avoided my gaze. "I can't do this anymore," she added. "This is destroying me. I need to get on with my life." That night, she packed her bag and left. I didn't even know where she went. I didn't cry at that moment, but when she closed the door, I felt something inside me break for good. The next day, I called my mother and told her what had happened. She asked me to come back home, not to go through this alone. I left the apartment and moved back in with my parents. It has been 2 weeks since then. I spend my days watching movies to distract myself, taking pictures of the garden or the sky, trying to make sense of it all, but the truth is, I can't find any. I lost my job because I physically can no longer make the effort it required, and I lost the woman I thought would be with me for the rest of my life. Sometimes I look in the mirror and don't recognize the person I see. I feel like this illness took everything from me, my health, my stability, and the love of my life. Update. Hello everyone. I wanted to thank you for the messages and good wishes you left me in my previous post. I read every one of your comments, and although at first it was hard for me to accept the situation, little by little I began to understand that Liliana was not the love of my life. For a long time, I clung to that idea, but now I see that if someone can leave you right when you need them most, then it wasn't true love. I hold no grudge. I'm just grateful I got to know her true colors before we got married. As for me, I'm continuing with the treatment. I'm not going to lie, there are hard days, but something has changed. My brother Sam recently came back. He is 20 years old and was away for 6 months on a school exchange. Since he returned, the house feels more alive. He has a very different energy, always optimistic. Every morning he comes into my room and says something like, "Come on, Brother, you're not going to die. You're young. Better think. What will you do when all this is over? At first, I would just smile, but now those words really motivate me. Sam also encourages me to keep taking pictures. He says I have talent and that I shouldn't give it up for anything. I take pictures of the sunrise from the garden, of the birds that perch on the wires in front of my window. I don't know if it will change anything, but at least it makes me feel alive. And for now, that's enough. Update. Hello everyone. 2 months have passed since my last post, and I wanted to share that fortunately, I'm responding well to the treatment. The doctors say the results are positive and that if everything continues like this, I will be able to finish the chemotherapy cycle earlier than planned. Physically, I still have difficult days, but I no longer feel as weak as before. Little by little, I have been regaining energy and hope. Recently, I came across something I didn't expect. I was checking Facebook and without looking for it, a post from Liliana appeared. Apparently, she is traveling with her new boyfriend. They are in Paris. I'm not going to lie, at first I felt a lump in my chest. Not because I want to get back with her, but because it was strange to see how her life moved on so quickly while I'm still here rebuilding mine. But there is no more resentment. I guess everyone deals with life as best they can. On the other hand, my brother Sam brought me some good news. He told me that the father of one of his friends owns a clothing store and needs someone to take advertising photos for his website. Sam told him about me and said they want to pay for the job. I accepted, not so much for the money, but because it makes me feel useful again. It's been a long time since I worked on anything related to photography, and the idea of doing it again, even if it's something small, has given me back a spark of motivation I thought I had lost. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm moving forward. Update. Today I want to share an update I never imagined I would be able to write. I feel better than ever. After months of treatment, the doctors confirmed that the cancer is in remission. My last chemotherapy session will be next month, and if everything goes as it has so far, I will be able to close this chapter of my life for good. I have no words to describe what I feel. I went through moments when I saw no way out, when everything seemed dark and meaningless. But now I can say with certainty that life can always surprise you, even when you think there is nothing left. Also, something incredible has happened with photography. That opportunity my brother Sam got for me ended up being the start of something much bigger. The photos I took for the clothing store were so well-liked that other people started contacting me. First, it was acquaintances, then friends of friends, and suddenly I had several clients. Today I have a small studio at home and work on advertising shoots, portraits, and even events. I even earn a little more than when I worked as an engineer, but the most important thing is that I enjoy what I do every day. I never thought that such a tough illness could lead me to discover a new passion and a different way of living. If I learned anything from all this, it's that life doesn't stop for anyone, and that even from pain, something beautiful can be born. I'm very grateful to life, to those who supported me with their messages, and especially to my brother Sam. He was my strength when I no longer had any. He always believed I would get through this, even when I couldn't. Today I can say he was right. Update. Hello everyone. A year and a half has passed since my last update, and I can say with my hand on my heart that I never imagined writing these words. I'm cured. The cancer is gone. The doctors give me regular checkups every 3 months, and so far everything is fine. Every time I leave a checkup with good results, I feel a gratitude I can't describe with words. Breathing, walking, working, eating without pain. All that I used to take for granted is now a gift. These last few months have been the best of my life. My photography business took off in a way I never imagined. What began as a casual opportunity turned into something that completely changed my life. The work with the clothing store was the beginning. After that, more clients started to come. People shared my photos, recommended my work, and little by little I started getting commissions from other cities. Today I travel constantly doing advertising photography for brands, small businesses, and even local artists. But the best part is that I no longer work alone. Sam, my brother, became my partner. He learned video and editing while I was recovering, and together we formed a small studio. It's funny how life arranges the pieces when you least expect it. Sam and I spend hours working. There are days we don't sleep well, we travel from one place to another, but we enjoy it to the fullest. People hire us for the way we combine photography and video. They say our work has something special. I guess that something is the heart we put into everything. A few months ago, I was able to fulfill one of my biggest dreams, buying a house. I'm still paying for it, of course, but I was able to make a 50% down payment, so the debt is not that large. Every time I open the door and see my own space, I remember the days when I thought I would never have a normal life again. Now I have a place that is completely mine, where I work, rest, and where I finally feel peace. This year life surprised me for the better, but it also reminded me that although the past is left behind, it sometimes comes back in unexpected ways. Something happened recently that took me completely by surprise. It all started when a group of university students became interested in my story. Apparently, my brother Sam, always so sociable and unfiltered, told them how I fought cancer and turned my passion for photography into a business. One of them knew someone at the local newspaper, and shortly after, they published a story about me. The headline read, "The young man who beat cancer and created a photography empire at the same time." I never imagined seeing my face on the cover of a newspaper, much less with that title. It was a strange but beautiful moment, not because of the attention, but because I felt that all the effort had been worth it. My mother was proud. Sam bragged about it everywhere, and I received many messages of support. However, among all those messages, there was one I did not expect. Liliana wrote to me for the first time in almost 3 years. It just said, "Hi, Lucas. I saw the news. Congratulations. Really, I'm glad you're well. You deserve it." I stared at the screen for several minutes. I felt no hatred or resentment, just a kind of quiet emptiness, as if there was nothing left between us. I did not reply. I thought that would be the end of it. But a few days later, while I was working, my mother called me. Her voice sounded nervous. She said, "Liliana is here." I already told her to leave, but she won't go. What? What do you mean she's there?" I asked, surprised. "She says she needs to see you. She came with a baby." My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to think. I took my keys and drove to my parents' house. When I arrived, she was in the living room with a sleeping baby in her arms. She looked different, thinner, tired, with deep dark circles under her eyes. As soon as she saw me, she stood up slowly. "Hi, Lucas," she said with a trembling voice. "Hi, Liliana," I replied, keeping my distance. We were silent for a few seconds. She started to cry. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I needed to see you," she said between sobs. "I want to ask for your forgiveness." She placed the baby on the sofa, knelt before me, and continued, "I was a coward. I left you at the worst moment of your life, and I have regretted it every day since. The man I left with left me when he found out I was pregnant. I have no one. I don't know what to do. I just wanted to ask for your forgiveness and help." I looked at her in silence. I felt no anger, only sadness. I knelt in front of her, took her face in my hands, and said, "I forgive you, Liliana." She began to cry harder and hug me desperately. "I swear I won't disappoint you this time. Thank you for giving me a second chance." My mother, who was watching from the kitchen, approached and said with concern, "Son." I looked at her and shook my head. Then, with a firm voice, I replied to Liliana, "I forgive you, Liliana. You were immature, impulsive, and you made a terrible decision, but that doesn't mean we're getting back together." She pulled away from me, confused. "What? No, Lucas, please. I swear I'll do anything." "No, Liliana," I said calmly. "You decided to leave when I needed you most. You abandoned me when I thought I couldn't survive, and yet I did it without you. I don't hold a grudge against you, but there are wounds that cannot be forgotten. If my cancer came back tomorrow, I know you would leave again." She shook her head, crying. "No, I swear I wouldn't. I've changed. I swear." "No, Liliana," I sighed. "You sealed your own fate. You preferred a life of travel with a man who didn't value you, and when reality caught up with you, you sought to return. We all make decisions. Now it's your turn to live with yours." She burst into tears. The baby started to cry too, as if sensing the tension of the moment. My mother approached and held him tenderly, trying to calm him. Liliana, in the midst of her desperation, began to tremble and suddenly fainted. My mother and I helped her lie down on the sofa. We waited a few minutes until she came to. When she opened her eyes, she looked exhausted, ashamed. I asked my mother to prepare her some water while I called a car to take her home. When the vehicle arrived, I helped her up and to take the baby. Before she left, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Really, I'm sorry, Lucas. You don't know how much. I nodded. I hope you find the peace you're looking for, Liliana. Take good care of your son. I closed the door and stood for a few seconds watching the car drive down the street. Then I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder. That woman wasn't worth it, son, she said in a soft voice. You did the right thing. I hugged her. I said nothing. I just felt relief, not because I had rejected Liliana, but because I finally understood that I had closed that chapter. That night, while reviewing some photographs on my computer, I thought about everything that had happened, about how an illness took almost everything from me, but also gave me a new life. If Liliana hadn't left, maybe I would have never discovered what I'm truly capable of. I would have never discovered the strength I had inside me. Today I have health, I have a purpose, a home, and above all, peace. Sometimes life doesn't give you what you want, but it gives you what you need to become who you are destined to be. I don't know what awaits me in the future, but I know that whatever happens, I'm ready. And if I've learned anything from all this, it's that forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes forgiving is the most silent and powerful way to move forward.